Good morning. It's actually Tuesday today because it was the bank holiday weekend, so I didn't get up yesterday as normal. But anyway, here we go. I'm just going to recap what happened week commencing the 15th of April. So on Monday we had a new starter called Jake Gardner, and still felt like things were a little bit of a rush in the morning because came in to check that his PC had been done, and when I went to log on it was still logged on with an old profile that was on it, so I was like, oh, panic, kind of like rushing around, moving desks about. I guess it's just one of those things, if you're not, because I've been away on for a karting weekend, I hadn't really had the opportunity to make sure that everything was all ready to go for him, so that was a bit of a rush, but it actually turned out to be not that bad. It was just a question that the machine just needed logging on as Jake as opposed to as opposed to Jess, and that was it. It was luckily quite a quick fix, so that was good. Work, we're busy with the starting off with the printing of the Costa promotion, so there was plenty of stuff that needed to be printed, and also to the artwork. So what they're doing now is slightly different, so just making sure that the main runner boards, the main majority of boards, there's about, let's say, 3 menu boards that need printing that go to the majority of sites. So of course, once you get those signed off and get those to print, then you pretty much can be up and running. So that's where we're at the moment. So that means that Rob and Aidan are also in work all the time because they're needed in terms of like the printing and finishing all the print. So the boys were also back. Our sons, Mac and Brody, are also back at school. Mac had totaled up and he's actually only got 17 days left at school. It was last Monday. In terms of exams and stuff, he's putting in an awful lot of effort. Much as he's on games all the time, I think he's actually playing GTA at the minute, but much as he's on games all the time, he's also spending a lot of time revising. He always seems to have a book in the hand. He really is putting the effort in, so I hope all this time that he's spending gets rewarded for him getting the results that he needs. He needs to get good grades so he can go to the college of his choice, which is Sir John Dean's, which is pretty local to where we are now. So it's actually within walking distance of where we are now. Post any kind of move to Wits End, then it's a different story, but it's certainly within a bus ride or being able to bike to there one way or another. Monday was also quite interesting. We'd spent a lot of time doing the video for Accolade to try and demonstrate the work and our capabilities of what we could do in terms of digital, in terms of advertising and creating stuff to go onto schemes. And we had an email from another member of the team wanting to reach out and use us to, just really to see what we can do from a creative point of view. So that was interesting, waiting for them to reach out to us and make contact and give us the brief for that. So that was good. Tuesday was an interesting day for me. We'd been unsuccessful in the pitch to get some work from Macclesfield College, who we actually already do a lot of work for in terms of social and creative and all the rest of it, and then there was a decision made that we didn't get to do the video, and that left me feeling really just like we had a complete missed opportunity. Fortunately, the head of the college gave me a call, and we were able just really to discuss things. Probably had about a quarter of an hour chat, and to be fair, you can't really in these situations, if you if you give somebody within your organisation the power to make a decision of who they want to work with, then really I think as the person who's running the business overall, then it isn't the right thing to do to overrule them or to get them to change their mind. You have to give them the support. Other than that, why give the job to them in the first place? But equally on the same basis, I, as in my role as being MD, I have to fight our corner, or at least make people aware of what my feelings are on it, and why I think that they really are missing an opportunity. So I did that. I certainly felt much better after I'd done that and got a few thoughts off my chest and what I've been. To be fair, it was a really positive phone call. Certainly at the college, they got a lot of changes that are due. I think changes in the way that they are they're going to be marketing. I think that's probably going to lead with some opportunities to do plenty of things actually. So the main thing is really keeping in contact with them. So also we set up some adverts for Facebook advertising water to schools. So around this time of year when there are exams on, I think the children who are at school aren't allowed to bring in, unless the water that they has or the water bottles that they have are clear and have no logos on, they can't take water into exams, which really seems pretty daft to me. I'm sure they could have glasses of water on the tables, which somebody could top up. There always seems to be lots of things, but anyway, there's a definite market for it. So we prepared a number of different exams, pretty much like a static ad. It has a little bit of animation in it in terms of the water inside. There's like a clear bottle with no label on, and with the water inside moves as if it's being tipped, just to make it more eye-catching. So we were looking at the different copy lines that could go on. So for example, text on the image, no text on the image, slight different images, different text in the body copy. And then the idea is to set these up as multiple ads, that all the budget's split over them, so that we can see if any one of the ads gets more attention than any of the others. On Tuesday, because Jake had started, one of the things that we have to do as part of the induction is to there's loads of things that we do actually. There's a whole great big long list, and one of the things on there is the history. There's like a PDF document that I create that shows how things have changed over time, how the website's changed, how the logo's changed, how we used to run the office from the dining room that's just in there and the utility room that's just in there, and really just to help people understand that the business has come a long way, and our business has developed a long way in a relatively short period of time. It's, in some ways you could say, oh God, they're not better things that I could be doing with my time. And again, there probably are, but equally, it's also important for new people to come in to understand that the business that they work for today is not the business that was there in 2011. Wednesday, I was up early, going to Edinburgh Airport to meet a client at the M&S that we've just recently rebranded in there, for them just to not so much really to give some feedback in terms of queries on graphics, and to just meet. I think as much as anything else, it was to meet really face to face. And I think there's always, there's an argument you can go again, well, that how much does it cost to actually get there? It actually worked out to be cheaper to actually get on the physical plane and fly there rather than drive there or anything like that. So obviously it's there's a large period of time of my day when you go there, but luckily for me, because of the way that things are set up, I'm able to usually to remote on. I'm using a little Microsoft Surface tablet. Not quite sure the exact model number, but it's pretty cool. So I can remote in and operate. I actually operate my work computer from the little tablet with the keyboard thing on it, which is then hooked up to the internet through my phone. Now the actual Wi-Fi signal within the airport was pretty bad, not quite sure why that was. So it was quite difficult to remote the PC at home. There was a document for a graphic wall that we're doing at one of the service stations in Exeter that needed doing, that we're on a deadline for. So I ended up literally doing that to the point where the plane was physically boarding and people were queuing to get onto the plane, when they're literally calling people to take the seats and what have you, and I was still trying to finish off I think I was finishing off the costs actually for it, and people they were down to possibly the last 5 or 10 people who was going in. Managed to actually take a snap of myself to forward that on to be posted to social. So that was something that I'm more mindful of these days, is just taking these ad hoc snaps just to give content for the people who are for the likes of Kat and what have you, to post and to show that I'm up early and out, and there's that probably I'm always working. Other people would probably be reading a magazine or something along those lines, but anyway, so that was posted. The meeting went well. I was probably there for maybe, a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes walking around site with the client, possibly a quarter of an hour tops, and then he had to go off and do something to do with Burger King or something along those lines. And then I worked from pretty much the Starbucks restaurant that's in Edinburgh Airport, and then came back. It was obviously always an opportunity for me to listen to podcasts as well when I'm on the aeroplane. So that was good to get a good period of time to be able to listen to those and catch up on my podcasts. On Thursday, I did a slight change. We're working off Trello for doing most of kind of like organising your organising and prioritising your job day. And one of the things that I've been aiming to do but hadn't actually successfully done until now was to create a new, like a card for a new starters. And Trello's got a pretty cool feature in where it's got a checklist. So for example, and then literally as things are done on that checklist, you just literally tick them off and it shows what percentage is done, which is really cool. So I've done that for Jake, and then was just ticking off the things on his list of the multiple things that need do, to in and out board, redoing the phone list, and all those kind of things that need doing. So that was done on the Thursday. Thursday got my first couple of replies to the water ad. So the first thing that was interesting on the ad, I actually put the actual price of the water in, thinking that what it'd be good to do was tell people how much the thing cost, and then they can see in their own mind whether they've got the budget for it, you know, when they come to it. So it kind of like cuts down the amount of administration that we would do for something. And I think one of the first comments on it was something to do with something to do with the actual cost or something like that. And I think what it is that people are benchmarking against the cost of the pallet we produce, which is something that is a bespoke product. So you're just literally producing one pallet at a time, specifically to order, to something that's produced and distributed on a bulk scale. So for example, a water like, I don't know, like Highland Spring or Evian or whatever, they're producing just that one or a limited amount of sizes, I don't know, 2 or 3 product kinds, and then they're being shipped all over Europe in bulk. So obviously that's going to reduce the cost. And then furthermore to that, water is used as a commodity product by the supermarkets. So they make some products in there they sell some products on there in very low margins, so that they make the profit up on you buying a basket of things and it's not going in there for the one thing that's on a cheap deal. So they'll give you a cheap deal on some things, and other things they're making a lot more margin on. And water's just one of those commodity products that you can get in there cheaply. I mean, whilst we are targeting this ad at people who are teachers and from the educational bodies, it does seem to be that other people, that it's somehow or other being seen by other people. So on the Friday, which was Good Friday, I got up and found there was a lot more comments. Quite a lot of comments were like questioning the need or the reason why people couldn't take a bottle of water in with them. So I found that, I don't know, maybe had, let's say, half a dozen comments that had to be managed. And then once you comment, then you get more replies and then further comments. And I just feel, from a moral point of view, that if somebody writes in and comments on it, I really do feel the need to answer every single comment. But then that it's like, how much time does that take to do versus if we were getting, let's say, 2 or 3 serious inquiries and I was spending, I don't know, half an hour or something like that answering some of these comments with a bank of replies that I'd typed up, then, because they do seem to be the same comments, like, it's plastic and single use. What did I have now? Single use plastic, you should be ashamed of yourself and what have you. Which funnily enough led me onto quite a lot of soul searching. But the point is that if the negativity and the comments on there and the time that it takes to answer those comments is outweighed by the fact that you're then not necessarily getting any return in terms of an order on it, then it just didn't seem to, for me and my aspirations for wanting to achieve at the weekend, it certainly wasn't going to be sitting down and typing in replies all the time to negative comments on there from people who have their own agendas and crusades and what have you. So I literally took the decision to pause all the ads. The ads have been seen by there was 5 ads and roughly seen by about 800 people each. So that's 4,000 people, or the ad's been seen about 4,000 times. So the way I figure it is, if when we come back now, if there's no orders that have come off that, then it just isn't worth the time to run the ads, especially if they're going to be getting a lot of negativity. Now, interestingly enough, I'd often thought that water would be a great product for us to advertise in terms of using Facebook, but having seen the negativity, if you think about this, 4,000 people, I've probably got. It's weird because this is going down to a focus group of one or two where you've got a couple of people who I think one person did an angry faced emoji, which you can't, the emojis you can't actually delete, but she did an angry faced emoji, and then I think 235 people had maybe liked the angry face emoji, or were they saying that they liked the idea that there's water? That I can't really, I'm going to assume that they were supportive in the being angry, and I think that's down to the fact of people see bottled water as being like a really bad product. Now in some, one of my answers to that was, in some countries or in some places, bottled water, we are really very lucky in the UK that the drinking our tap water is by and large, barring a couple of, I think we had a scare with some a bacterial infection in the water, I think maybe a couple of years ago somewhere. It was actually around Tarleton, so maybe it was over 2 years ago, but other than that, our water is safe and is good to drink. But if you look at the whole, as I say, it did make me do some soul searching. I was thinking about the single-use thing and thinking about the ethics of actually selling bottled water, and ultimately if it's a product that somebody wants to use, then if somebody wants to buy it, then it should be there for sale. So we took the dogs out for a walk around Lynn Dam. We was thirsty, and there was quite a few people buying bottled water at the ice cream van, and they were buying bottled water over buying something like Coke, because there were cans of Coke and there was fizzy drinks available, but they were ordering water. So that's from a health thing. So what's better for them to be drinking water, or is it better for them to be drinking Coke? Well, I'm going to say obviously water is definitely better for them. So it's a product that I think there is a justifiable need for. I think the most important thing is to focus on at least there is it's really I think it really boils down for me is the recyclability. I think I was looking at every single thing that's around. I was looking at in the house, looking at all the things that are made of plastics, laptops, mouse, everything, and those things that then I've seen we're doing so many tip runs, we're trying to thin things down for moving house, the amount of stuff that just gets thrown in the recycling that maybe doesn't even get recycled at all and just literally goes to landfill. At least with these plastic bottles, they are being captured in a proper recycling thing, and they're going there, and yes, they may be used for not so much upcycling, but very kind of I don't know, let's say they're used for insulation, or they're used for not a high-end product. So for example, you're not getting a water bottle that's it's not like with a glass bottled water where you can use it and then recycle it as a glass bottle again. It has to be used for something that's I think it's used in carpets. I think that's one of the major use for it, some part of a carpet. But these people who are going on there and having a pop at water, do they, what are they doing themselves? Are they going down to the supermarket and are they buying milk in a carton because it's cheaper and more convenient for them to get it as part of the weekly shop? Or are they paying for a milkman to come round and to return the empty bottles and they get washed and reused? I guess what I'm saying is it's all right for these people to have these personal crusades that have been highlighted by television, but is the person who's doing it, what are they doing? For all I know, they could be, for example, using hair products and just chucking the stuff in the bin, the package, like the plastic packaging that's used everywhere. I'm looking here and I can see there's a punnet of fruit that comes with plastic, but my point is that plastic is everywhere. And whilst picking on single-use plastic bottles is a way to highlight packaging being an evil, if it is, it's just a whole wider thing. And I think my takeaway or my conclusion on this is that it's really the agenda that should be pushed here is making sure that there is recycling in place more than anything else. And a lot of people do moan about having to segregate waste and plastics and what have you, but I'm all for that, and I've always done that right from the get-go, and had no problems with separating card and glass and all the rest of it. I like the idea that goes away, and some of these products are being reused or being recycled to some way, shape or form, and that for me is probably the most important thing. Anyway, kind of run over. So yeah, on Friday was bank holiday, so we took the kids out, went for a walk around Lim Dam, which was really nice. The first time I'd taken the dogs there, so that was good. In the evening we watched a film, an old 80s film with Danny Dyer called The Business, which is good. It charts his kind of journey from living somewhere in London or Peckham and then becoming part of the drug and nightclub scene or drug smuggling scene in Spain. So yeah, very entertaining film. And I think something else that I've done, the dogs are fast asleep now, but for some reason or other when they kind of wake up at 5:30 or thereabouts, they've just got this need to woof. So I'd worked out that my most comfortable way of sleeping downstairs is actually now to have a sleeping bag downstairs that I can sleep on the couch, because if I sleep down there with them, then they start woofing, and providing I can still sleep on the couch, which I can quite comfortably, then everybody seems to win all around. What's interesting for me is that if I'm looking at work and how that obviously must affect my mentality in terms of waking up, it's like this morning I've been awake since maybe 5 o'clock. Yeah, I think I was very hot. It's quite warm. The weather's absolutely lovely in the UK at the moment, but it's definitely anxiety or nerves that wakes me up more so than anything else. Of a weekend, I feel a lot more relaxed. And I don't have any problems in going back to sleep and then sleeping until maybe 8 or even 8:30, that kind of thing. And that's because I'm not thinking the work thing and need to get up and get things done. I don't have that drive of a weekend the majority of times, so I'm a lot more relaxed. It does make me think more in terms of how my mind is being, how my mindset's being affected by working, and just that possibly whilst it's good for me to try and get more the 7 hours sleep in, doing less hours is definitely increasing the amount of stress and pressure that I'm under in some ways. So nobody knows. There's results that are out there that suggest cutting your sleep is not a good thing. So I am still going to stick with the 7 hours sleep wherever I can. So on Saturday did the same thing. Dogs woke me up about 5:30 woofing, but I was able to come downstairs, sleep on the sleeping bag until about 8 a.m. I was up on Saturday. I went into town for 10 o'clock. We were helping groundwork with the management and kind of the Easter Extravaganza, so I was in town handing out, I opted or volunteered, whatever you want to call it, to hand out the leaflets. So there's a leaflet that shows what activities were going on in town, so I was looking for people who had children and offering them the leaflet showing the events and what was on and when. Main thing that was on there was an Easter egg hunt, so the idea is that there's a number in every single shop, and then you go in there and you come back, write all the numbers down, and then at the end of the day, if you filled in all your sheet, then what you do is you get yourself a free Easter egg. And fortunately, I don't think the Easter eggs had actually melted, which was good, because it was extremely hot. And the other thing that I think that was quite revealing for me was how polite people were. So the amount of people, if I just said, "Oh, do you want a flyer?" or something along those lines, and they went, so either like, "Yes, please," or gave them the flyer, and then they said, "Oh, thank you," or "Cheers, mate," or something like that. But like, certainly the vast majority, must have been at least 90% of their responses were really positive, and people were really polite. And I think that's a really good thing, and it came as a bit of a surprise to me. I thought it'd be that people would blank me and just kind of shake their head or not even engage or anything like that, but the majority of people were like really positive towards it. So yeah, that was a very positive experience. We finished probably about 2:30, 3 o'clock. And yeah, I think it's good. It's important to support our clients. It's not something that normally happens. Normally have their own people in, but one of the people who are off long-term sick, and the other one had just had a holiday that was booked in, and for some reason or other they'd signed off the holiday, and it left them a couple of people short on the day. So we stepped in there and did what we needed to do. Also spent some time on Saturday morning learning about playing with Snapchat and the filters that's on them. So they did make me laugh. So you have your phone, and then it applies live on the fly a filter, or like, for example, it might make your eyes bulge, or put a wig on, or a beard or something along those lines. So I played with some Snapchat filters, downloaded the picture, shared it on Facebook, and basically it was a picture of me looking like a drag queen, believe it or not. So I had pink hair and like lipstick and all the rest of it on this, using this Snapchat filter, and I put, well, if it doesn't work out at 24/7, I think I could always make it as a drag queen. So it was good, quite shocking I think for people to see that. Saturday, unfortunately, was the dishwasher broke down, and in terms of convenience, I think one of the best things in life for me is not having to wash the dishes. So the fact that the dishwasher is now decided to break at this particular point in time is like pretty predictable. Have the same thing usually when a car is about to be sold or something along those lines. You can usually guarantee that's when things start going wrong with the car, and it's kind of seems to me that because we're getting close to the point where we could be leaving the house. There was a plastic clip that dropped off on a drain pipe out there the other day, and now the dishwasher is going to need repairing. So that's like, annoying. On the Saturday night, we watched another classic, I don't know, like 80s film. It was called Sexy Beast with Ray Winston in. I can't think who else it is, but again, that's a really great film. He's a bank robber who retires over to Spain and then ends up getting dragged back by a villain played by Ben Kingsley, and he got plenty of awards for best supporting actor or something like that. He plays a really bad person who ends up getting, I won't tell you what happens in the film, but it certainly doesn't come to a nice end, shall we say. But it was interesting because it was highlighting a life where their life over there was to sit down in a villa in Spain with a pool, and literally your days spent pretty much either going, the wife's time is spent going shopping, out shopping for clothes and what have you, having meals, and the bloke's out there topping up his suntan and going for swims. And Wen was like, oh yeah, that's the perfect life for me, for me. And I'm like thinking, I could do with it for some points, but if I think I would literally go nuts, I would have to find something else to do, whether that be painting or something like that. I'd definitely have to do something that kept me some kind of mentally active. I don't think I could literally sit baking out in the sun. I don't even like the smell of my own flesh burning. I don't know. I just feel like I'm literally being cooked alive. But still, we're not in the. I don't know whether we'll ever be in a position where we could do something like that. Although I think there is definitely some kind of appeal for spending some time when the weather's getting miserable and what have you in the UK towards like autumn and winter, where there's a nicer place to spend the winter somewhere mildly, and to have somewhere that you could go to and hang out and have friends out in like a Spain. I think Mallorca is probably somewhere that would appeal. It's got such lovely beaches, and it's just really I think that's somewhere where if we were going to go, that would probably appeal. Although I suppose, if you drove somewhere, if you were going to France, we've not been to France, so I couldn't even tell you what that's like, but France, Portugal, maybe somewhere where you could drive. I don't know. Anyway, thoughts for another day, I suppose. Sunday, we took the dogs for a walk round Anderton, which is, for some reason or other, the car parking's been broke there I couldn't even tell you. It's certainly been months. Must be. Wouldn't even surprise me if it's 12 months that the parking's not worked. The parking pay machine's not worked. But it's a great walk, a nice circular walk round. Dogs love it. Again, fantastic weather. So that was good. Had my parents round for about 4 o'clock. Watched Liverpool play Cardiff away, and they won 2-0. So that was good. There's probably still at the point where I think Man City have got 4 games left. Liverpool have got 3 games left. Liverpool have played 1 more game than Man City, and they are 2 points ahead. So in theory, if Man City win their game in hand, then they're a point ahead of Liverpool. So their game in hand is coming up this week against Manchester United. So we're in this really very, very strange situation where happens sometimes in football games, where Man United, they don't like City, but they don't like Liverpool even more. They absolutely despise Liverpool. So you'll probably find when Man United play Man City, there'll be quite a lot of Man United fans that'll be cheering on City and hoping that United beat, just so that Liverpool again go another season without winning the Premiership title. But it's just nice to be in it right to the end, I think, which is good. Spent Sunday, I think my major achievement for something I'd done would be looking at having an extra backup. It's called a NAS backup. It's kind of like a section of 4 disk drives that are all together in an enclosure, and then all the data from the studio and from the main server gets replicated across, like all the data gets shared across all the 4, like 3 drives. It needs the data would fill 3 drives that are 4 terabytes each, so let's say 12 storage, but the extra 4 terabytes that's in there you do by sharing the data across all the drives. So if any one of those 4 drives packs up, then you can literally, they call it hot swap, and you pull the drive out and you put a new one in, and then all the data is still across those 3 drives, and then you put the new one back in, and somehow or other it manages to rebuild the data somehow or other. I don't know. It is there's demonstrations that are on the internet that explains how it is. It's called RAID 5. But I think that was kind of like my major achievement for Sunday. One of the important things that I'd been meaning to do, but kind of like put off doing because there'd been so many emails about it from what, 3 different sources of people I'd used for IT. So kind of think I've moved that forward. So I'm just waiting for our main consultant to have a look at that and to approve their proposals and the cost that I put forward for it. So yeah, so here I am on the Tuesday for this week. It is a short week. So I'll tell you what happened about Bank Holiday Monday next week. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers, bye.